and welcome to Dave's Model Workshop. Today I'm going to be showing you how to paint leather, so belts, helmets, etc., holsters, using oil paints. So the figure that we're going to be working on is a 1/35th Soviet tankman. He's got a holster, a couple of leather belts on his torso, and his leather tanker's helmet. The paints I'm going to be using today, they're nothing at all special, but here they are. Just wait for that to get in focus. So I've got a range of colours. I've got raw umber, Van Dyke brown, there's the sort of darker tones, a burnt sienna for a sort of mid-tone, and a yellow ochre for a kind of highlight and yellowy tone. So yeah, let's get to it. I'm going to put some Van Dyke brown, I think I'll start with, into my bodgy little jam jar tin here, and get painting. So see you in a second. So the beautiful thing with working with oils is that they are fairly forgiving. Really, you can mix colours beautifully. They really gradient into one another just exquisitely. The downside is that it takes ages for it to dry. So it's double-edged sword there, really. In some ways, it's great. It's very forgiving, but in other ways, yeah, it's a slow process and it takes a long time to dry. So at this stage we're just putting on a dark base coat with the Van Dyke brown, working pretty carefully since I've started painting his bodywork already, his tunic and pants, but yeah, you get the idea. So that's how we're looking already. See if we can get them to focus. It's got a nice gloss to it as well, which I think is going to help our leather. So I'm going to keep going and see you back here in a moment. Okay, so here is our first layer. As you can see, the Van Dyke brown has already given us quite a nice texture to work with. It's got a nice, let's see if we can get this in focus. That's more like it. It's got a nice glossy sheen to it that already feels quite leathery. It really has got a bit of tonal variety there. It's not just gone on as one straight colour. So already artist oil's really working in your favour. A little bit of cleanup to do on that shoulder strap, but the tunic is still to be painted and obviously made dull and matte. But I'm going to try and keep that sheen that we've got on the leather. Now, one thing I forgot to mention before is that I'm going to use a gentle wash with some ivory black. You can use ivory black, you can use lamp black, anything's fine. These paints, seriously, they are nothing at all special. This one here, $2.50. Really, you don't have to use primo quality ingredients here. So yes, what we're going to do now is get a little smidgen of lamp black, ivory black. Really, it's the tiniest little amount. It's just a tiny wash, and if we had more stuff to be covering, then maybe we'd be using more. But literally, it is, half a toothpick's lid's top worth. Half a toothpick's lids, my goodness. And all I'm doing now is adding a little bit of methylated spirits to it, just to get a really nice gentle wash. I think that's going to be perfect. So the wash is for things like the base of the holster and these more shadowed areas in his helmet. Let's see if I can get that into focus for you. That's more like it. So the helmet's already pretty dark actually. It's come out fairly darkish, but I think this will help a little bit. Just to define those darker shadowed areas. You'll probably see it a bit more clearly on the holster if I get it in front of the camera. So for things like this holster strap here, and the underneath of the cover, and just that shadow, oh boy, all about my thumb, just that shadow kind of underneath the holster's cover. So again, it's pretty subtle, but Every little bit helps, I think. Really have to learn to keep my figures in front of the camera here. Sorry guys. So I'm starting to pick up a bit of the brown onto the background. You can see my wash is turning a brownish colour rather than staying pure black as it was. But to be honest, I think that's probably enough for me for tonight, so I'm going to leave this to dry off. Oh, a little tiny bit of it around the belt as well, the belt buckle. Okay, and a little smidgen just... Sorry guys, you're getting lots of lots of footage of my thumb and not much of the model. A little tiny bit around that. Okay, so I reckon that's me done for this evening. I'm going to leave this to try and dry off a bit and come back to it tomorrow night when it will still be tacky, but at least we can start doing a bit more work and not have that wash just turn everything grey. Okay, I'll chat to you all tomorrow night. So it's the next morning and the oils have dried. The black wash in particular has really evaporated away. So I'm going to use some burnt sienna now. I'm just using it straight from the tube, not even bothering to squeeze it out. And really just going for a sort of highlight effect here. If it doesn't work, we'll tone it back quite a lot. So it's kind of like dry brushing, I think. You get a sense of what it looks like there. Just, yeah, it's really like dry brushing. Just going for that highlight effect. Hoping you can see that on the holster there. We'll do the same thing for the belt. The belt's already got some sort of natural highlights happening, which is quite nice, just from the fairly thin layer of Van Dyke brown that I put on last night. Once again, I'm just showing you my thumb, apologies. Picking up the edge of that belt buckle there, and really just through the center of the belt. Splooged a little bit onto the garment. Yeah, you get the idea. And this is the helmet once that's been dry brushed a little bit with the lighter brown. So dry brushing is really not the right term, but it's just picking out those highlights. You do get a chance with the oil, so the darker brown from last night is still quite wet. It blends in together and it kind of merges nicely together. So yeah, we'll leave that for a bit longer and then we'll just add some highlights with the lighter yellow ochre colour. But yeah, I think we're looking for that leather, looking pretty good. It's got a nice raw, warm richness to it, and yeah, definitely still got some shadows. I think it's looking quite real. Okay, back soon. So here's our finished result with the brown leather all painted. So all oils, I've put one or two little traces of original dark brown just along sort of the edge of the helmet there, just a little tiny bit underneath the bottom of the holster's top flap, just to give a little bit more definition to those shadows there. But otherwise, yeah, we're pretty much done. Pretty sorted there. So the very last step is just to paint in belt buckles. Generally for this, I'll use black paint to give definition to the shape. It just adds a nice bottom surface for any following metals that you add on there. Kind of gives you a nice shadowy effect. So got that buckle there and this little tiny buckle here. So a little square there, little square here. Once again, I've gone slightly out of the lines on the top of that buckle, on the belt buckle, but because I'm going to be repainting the tunic and putting shadows and depth into the tunic, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. So the very final thing is to paint the metallic colour. So obviously, depending on your references, you'd have brass or silver or aluminium. I use this stuff. Let's try and get it. It's actually showing. It's AK Interactive Extreme Metal. I was a bit skeptical about this stuff at first, but really, it's pretty amazing. It's a really nice product to work with. The colours just go on really smoothly, and it's just, low stress. I was skeptical, but yeah, it works nicely. And there we are, there's our final result. So, yeah, I think, the main takeaway is the two belt buckles in brass, and there's also a little tiny dollop of brass on that holster buckle. So yeah, look, the main takeaways are, don't be intimidated by oils. They seem very professional. You can get them cheap as chips. Try them, experiment with them. What have you got to lose? And really, the gradients that you get, those lovely rich tones that you can get, it's worth it. You just can't get this effect with enamels or acrylics. If you have any questions, do feel free to ask in the comments below. Please check out my blog. It's davesmodelworkshop.blog.com.au, and yeah, come back soon. Cheers guys. Enjoy experimenting with oils.